be a healthy balance for code switching. And when I say there should be a healthy balance, all that or all I mean is that we shouldn't allow code switching to be our whole identity. I feel like a lot of people in our community take code switching as like a good tool or like a just there's a word, there's a specific word for it, but like there's a it's like a trump card, not a trump card. There's definitely a word for it. I can't think of it. But yeah, they use it. We value the ability to code switch so much that it hinders us from sometimes being ourselves and just living. Yeah, just living. So I think to answer your question, yes.
That's good. Agree. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Well, I'd love to keep this conversation going, but we allotted a specific amount of time to our imaginary sponsors. So we're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be right back on Temperature Check.
Are you okay?
The stupid math class is kicking my butt, and I gotta pass this class.
Well, have you tried the tutoring program?
What tutoring program?
Well, the Max department offers online and in-person tutoring. They offer help with math, physics, and computer science. All you have to do is sign up.
How do I sign up?
I'll show you. So you just go into your courses in D2L. You will hit Need Tutoring. And then a schedule of tutors and times will pop up, and you just sign up. Simple.
Wow.
And guess what?
What?
You get paid every time you complete a session.
Are you serious? That's so crazy.
I know, right?
Can I borrow your computer? I'd like to sign up.
Yeah.
Don't suffer in silence. Sign up for the Max Tutoring Program. Better grades and money in your pocket. That's a win-win. Certain restrictions apply.
That witnessed what happened during the break. As you guys know, Will Smith emerged from the audience and slapped me in the face. I apologize. This was not supposed to happen. I'm sorry. That joke really always kills. Like it's been a year, and then even if the joke doesn't kill, like you still get like the nose exhale. Like sometimes like you have a good joke and it's not necessarily like a laugh, but you get like like everyone go with me like. Yeah, like that's a good joke. But anyway, we are going to have what I want to call a live version of our 100% honest question, okay? I have a question and I want to ask it to our panel and audience. Here's my question. When you hear the term black owned, does it ever speak to you black owned equals less quality? If not, why does it speak this way to some people? You can take your time to think about it, I understand. Yeah, when you walk into a store and you see the sign, why is it that we have something in our community that we may have a bias or prejudice versus our own stuff? Go ahead, Malika.
I think it comes from the notion that black people are just less than. So if they produce anything, it must be less than, right? So I think that also comes with that stereotype. If it's black owned, then it's probably less quality or it's probably more expensive, you know? So not the fact that it was created by a black person and they're putting more effort into a society where it's not usually accepted, right? But it's less than because they were seen as less than as an individual.
Interesting.
If I could add on, I would solely base it on the fact that, we probably think that black people are less than. From personal experience, there have been times where I've seen black-owned businesses, and I'd be like, I'm not too sure about that only because of my personal experiences with other black people. So it's like because I've had, let's say, a bad experience with, a fellow brother of mine, and it's just like they've treated me wrong or they've done something to just diminish or just just put a bad term or reputation on black people. It kind of travels on to black businesses. So it's like, okay, I'll see a black business and be like, I'll question in my head, well, what's the quality of it? I want to know how they treat their customers. Like, is it just a regular, the black person being a black person type thing? If that makes sense.
No, that definitely makes sense. I want to ask our clinical psychologist. When the people who go, okay, black institutions, I just have a bias that they're not as good as white institutions. Black companies, I just have a bias that they're not as good as white companies. Do you think that comes from a personal insecurity?
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a longer. It's very complex. At the same time, it's very simple.
Break it down.
It comes from an exclusion of black people as a whole from the economy that would have built them up to be wealthier individuals. And I'm not an economist, nor am I a historian, but when I read about the stories of a family's, in one book in particular, a family owned land in South Alabama, a black family. They had 7 children, and that family, the father was just he wasn't an irritant in the way that he got on people's nerves, but the fact that his family owned land irritated his neighbors who were white. And they found a way to put him in jail. And at the time, saying that you were in jail or you had a record could result in you losing the land or whatever resources you had. That man ended up being killed on his own land.
Oof.
His oldest son saw him being killed, and the rest of his children all suffered. And for the next 3 generations, they lived in poverty because this man, in his affluence, angered the people that were around him. And not because he stole from them, but because they believed that this black family should not have more than they had as white people. That's a generational impact.
Wow.
And if that is something that's, even if it happened only one time, the fact that I hear about that story makes me wonder, what did we grow up thinking because of the need for safety? Just because we needed to survive, we diminish or we find safe places for the ideas that we have, and often that's within our own people. It's often that a black person will be denied a loan. I don't know if that's changed today because there's just a lot more talk about it, but I know in the 80s for sure, I've had relatives who wanted to own a business and were denied loans that would have started them off. So they had to start with the back of their car. They had to sell out of the side of the storefront that the friend would allow them to hold. And that gave the impression that they were less than. But they were less than in someone's eyes before they even started their business. Because someone said, well, you won't pay us back. So that generational impact is what you still have to think about. Even when you say, I don't know if I'm gonna go with that because, the last time so-and-so happened that, it didn't go so well. You have to think about what the average black person has to go through in order to set up something. It's usually 4 or 5 steps behind what the majority culture allows for their own people.
Wow.
That is something to consider. Now, simply for me, I would prefer to work with people who have the same mindset that I do. I just don't encounter a lot of white people who have the same mindset that I do. So a lot of the things that I need in terms of big events or plans for whatever it is, I have friends or who have friends who recommend someone to me. I haven't had a negative experience where I'm like, okay, that's going to make me think twice next time for using a black-owned business. I have had success, but it's because I'm looking for someone who has the same mindset as I do.
Can I challenge you a little bit?
Feel free.
You didn't say same skin tone. You said same mindset.
Same mindset.
What's that mindset like?
Mindset for me is approaching things from really the impact of my culture. So it does indirectly relate to black people, but my culture is, what is my culture? My culture, I would say, is more black culture, but I don't want to speak for everybody. My culture is when it's time for us to celebrate, it's time for us to celebrate.
Gotcha.
My culture is when it's time for me to look good, I'm going to do the best I can to look good because this is my time to shine.
That's good.
My culture says when it's time to advance what I know, the learning that I have, you're going to know that I know something. I'm not going to be quiet. It's time, when it's time to celebrate a graduation, for example, don't tell me to be quiet.
Okay.
Don't tell me not to
No
make
code
noise.
switching.
Huh?
No code switching here. Yeah.
No. We're going to be loud because that's my child down there.
I like that.
That's my culture. And so when I'm ready to celebrate that, or when I'm ready to move into a space where that is expanded, I don't want someone telling me, oh, well, that's going to be a little bit. And are you aware of what the rules are for this room?
Yeah.
I am aware, but I need this space.
That's good.
So that's not always a black person, but it
Yeah.
has been for me, the black person who owns the business that gives me what I need.
It's the mindset. It's the mindset. Mr. Foster, you seem poised. You seem poised to drop wisdom on us.
Well, the fact of the matter is, and Dr. Buckner did touch on this, the standard of excellence or the standard for survival of a black business versus a white business are different. So if a black business has been around for 10 years or 15 years or whatever, they're generally going to be better than their white counterparts. And, so that's an important thing because it also, I was in sales, and I actually found that I got the benefit of the doubt that they assumed that if they're going to send a black guy out here, he must be better. And so I mean, you can really look at it from a positive perspective.
Yeah.
If a black business has been around, they're probably better than their white counterpart.
That's good. No, I appreciate that. Dr. Prig, it seemed like you had something to say.
So going back to the original question about black-owned,
Of course.
I was kind of surprised at our younger panelists' response to suggest that we often associate something that's negative or less than. When I think black-owned, I'm thinking something that is authentic, creative, imaginative. There was hard work put into that. Because for me to think otherwise, that's actually speaking about me. I mean, I am black-owned. And if I'm less than, what in the world does that mean? And then when it comes to the schools, HBCUs, now I'm a product of an HBCU, Lincoln University, LU, Pennsylvania, 1854. That's not when I graduated. That's when it was established.
Okay, I was about to say.
And then I have taught not only at Oakwood.
If so, you look great for your age.
Not only at Oakwood, but also at Lincoln University for several years. And when I think about how students come into the university and how they go out, with the resources we don't have, HBCUs are miracle working institutions. We transform people. That's powerful. I'm not sure you can say that about every other type of university.
Yeah.
But we really change people and they make a difference. So this is rich.
Yeah, part of that change in mindset that it might be less than has to come with the commitment that you will make it better if you are a part of it. I'm also a product of HBCUs from undergraduate all the way through the doctoral degree. That was my intention because I knew what type of atmosphere I wanted to be in. And even if there were other non-minority students in the program with me, it was housed in an HBCU. And it had the atmosphere of, we're going to support you. We're going to make sure that you make it. At the doctoral level, of course, you have to stand on your own 2 feet, but they were concerned. They were asking about me. I have been in environments academically of primarily white institutions, or those institutions that now call themselves minority serving, that started off predominantly white. There is still, and I'm not blaming the people, I'm blaming the system, because the system has said, we're just shuffling them through. We have the money, and we're just gonna put it on the programs and keep them moving, right? So if you fall by the wayside, there's someone else to take your place.
Wow.
But in the HBCU environment that I have been in, there is someone who says, how are you doing? And that has been what I knew I needed to succeed. Not that I didn't have the smarts. I am pretty sure that I can make it academically anywhere. But that attitude that I can make it started here at Oakwood when someone said, yes, you can be a psychologist. Because you know why? My teacher was a psychologist, and she looked just like me.
Wow. That's a great point. That's a great point.
That is never less than.
Yeah.
That's never less than.
I totally agree. I challenge all of my viewers in the chat to give your points, give your thoughts about this. Again, these conversations about what's the temperature? Do we like where we are? And where do we want to go? Moving on, for our second package, we wanted to use a clip from a show that my family would watch together almost every week, Blackish. You could use almost any episode to start a discussion like this, but we wanted to use an episode from their first season, which touches on a subject we've probably almost all encountered. Take a look.
Jack! Where are you, Jack?
Not her.
Oh my God, you guys, my son is gone! He's been kidnapped! He's little, he's black, he's really cute. Who wouldn't kidnap him? It was only a matter of time.
Ma'am.
He's very small.
Ma'am, calm down.
Just calm down! Listen to me!
I'm going to fast forward through what my wife said to Officer Hernandez. It doesn't show her in the most flattering light. But I think it's a good reminder to all of us that you never tell a frantic black woman to calm down.
You gotta go find Mike. What are you doing? Go! Go!
Yes, ma'am.
Jack, where are you? Oh, God. Jack!
Remember the ass I mentioned earlier? Here he is, our son.
Mommy loves you. Oh, God.
He'd hidden again. It was a game to him. A game we all hated called Jack's Missing and maybe in a white van with no windows. I found him. He's okay.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
Everyone's okay. Whew. I love a happy ending.
Were you hiding? Were you hiding in there? You scared the hell out of me. Did you not hear me calling your name?
I'm going to go ahead and fast forward again because I don't think you can say these things to a child.
When we get home, your father is going to spank you.
Did you hear what she just said? Let me play it back for you.
When we get home, your father is going to spank you. Let's go.
Can you believe her? She got
Let's
to be
go.
judge, jury, and made me executioner. Not cool, Bo. Not cool.
Oh, my God. Is that me? Oh, God. Oh, really? Oh, I see. It takes you 2 hours to find a little black boy, and then you're here in 2 seconds when I accidentally steal a clutch? Well, you know what? I'm keeping it. That's right. I'm keeping it.
All right. So by a show of hands, who has been whooped, beaten, bruised, spanked as a child? No one? Not many people? Okay. Well, I have a few Nego spirituals that I've written from my experiences. It's my experience. Don't take that away from me. First question I want to ask any of the people that raised their hand. Did getting spanked, did that affect your personal development as a child? If so, how? Good, bad, ugly? Give me it.
I'm going to just take the first jump into this.
Please.
I want everyone to know that this is a recurring research study. Every generation gets asked about this. And I'm just going to tell you what the research says, that being spanked is associated with more negative outcomes.
Okay.
Now, what colors that differently is the type of parenting style. So it's not just, did you get spanked and then now you've learned you can punch people in the gut. No, it's, did you get spanked and how did your parents discipline you in other ways? Was spanking the only option? And when you say spanked, there is a varying definition of what you mean by spanked. And I did not raise my hand, but I have been spanked. But you associated spanking with beaten, battered, and bruised.
Your jokes. Yeah.
That, yes, and that's how we learn to manage that dissonance. Like, I didn't want to be spanked, but I think a whole lot of people around me got spanked, so it's a funny thing. But we actually, when we think about it, we're like, I didn't like that. But at the same time, once you become a parent, you realize that there was a reason why you felt the discipline before you heard the discipline. And even in my talking about it now, I realize that when people say you got whooped, there's a different understanding for at least 45 to 50% of the people who hear you talk. So it's generally associated with negative outcomes. But the interesting thing is, people of color, and this is not just African American people of color are more likely to employ it as one of the ways of discipline. I don't know what we're going to make of that because it won't go away. That's really what I'm trying to say.
One of an assortment of many different forms of discipline.
Maybe 4 or 5, yes. And in terms of the list, there's, the timeouts, the punishment, the grounding, the removal of privileges, and then there's spanking. And at a certain age, research shows that spanking does nothing. Now, with all of that, it will not go away. There are still parents who believe what the Bible says. The rod creates a better acting child. You create a person of integrity if you allow the rod to do some disciplining
I
for
need to
you.
remember more Bible verses.
I can kind of
It's there. You probably heard
No,
it
it's
before.
there. I'm there.
I can kind of relate to the clip. My mom never lets up on the story about how I was around 6, 8 years old. We went to Walmart. We were living in Virginia at the time. We went to Walmart, and at this time, I think when Walmart was still one of them big, super big corporations, and they would have like the McDonald's and stuff like that. We were in Walmart. I was walking around with her, and she turned her head for a second, and I was gone. And the same reaction that the young lady had in the video was the same reaction that my mom had. Long story short, they found me at McDonald's just sitting there eating. But apparently, with, I think at that time, that's when the Code Adam and stuff like that had just started to pick up traction and stuff. So they had locked down the supermarket. Somebody found me or whatever, sat me down, and was like, okay, we found him. He's good. All that to say is that growing up, I did get spanked, but it wasn't a lot. Usually the raising of the voice or I'm disappointed in you was enough. Like when I was told by my mother, I'm very disappointed in you, or told by somebody that, I held to high regard that, you really disappointed me. That's not what I expected you to do. It really hurt. And it was like, okay, I don't want this. It brought this feeling of shame. And it was like, I don't want this to happen again. So to avoid getting spanked and stuff like that, like usually the loudness of the voice and the screaming, and it was usually enough. And I would go as far as to say is that, in the society that we live in, today's society, I don't think a lot of kids need that type of spare the rod, spoil the child type of mentality. It's too much. And then it creates, or not creates, but in a way you could relate it to how, slaves were treated back then. Like it's that same type of mindset because you do something bad, you're gonna get whipped for it.
Yeah.
You don't follow master's rules, you'll get whipped or you'll get beaten. You'll do something. So it's like, in a sense, that whole mentality of where the slaves were beaten for not following the rules and stuff like that, it has translated, or it's gone through our whole parenting system or parenting systems, and I don't think it's a good concept to keep up to date.
Yeah, and what you're saying is showing that there's not just one black temperature. There's the temperature of what you're saying, and then there's the temperature of probably a lot of people with kids who would probably be like, you haven't lived yet. So I totally understand what you're saying, Dr. Pray.
It would be interesting to ask another question.
Okay.
And that is, what's the impact of not spanking? It'd be nice to figure out, is the lack of spanking the cause of all of the mass murders, the mass killings, the mass shootings that are going on? Had they been spanked, maybe that might have been curbed. I'm just wondering.
No.
But that's a question that people don't ask and should.
I would say to that there should be a healthy balance, though. I'm not saying that we should completely disregard the spanking, because now that I've gotten older, I've been able to reflect on certain situations and be like, okay, I can understand the reason as to why I got spanked. That was really like dumb of me to do. Like, I understand it. But not only did I get spanked, there was the reason as to why I was getting spanked. A lot of times with spankings and, different punishment measures, we get the punishment, but we don't also get the reason behind the punishment. We don't get the understanding. It's do as I say, not as I do, or just do what I tell you to do. And that's where I think sometimes that line isn't drawn, or it's like there's the more of the mass shootings or however you want to put it, because there's no respect boundary. I could respect you for punishing me, but we're living in a day and age where, I think Malika could agree with me on this, where it's just like we're questionative type of people. We want to know why we don't want to do, why we shouldn't do something. We want to be able to have a reason behind something and not get penalized for it.
Man, I love the analysis you guys are bringing to this. I'm happy that I will never have to deal with these problems, because when I'm 50, 60, I'm not going to have kids. I'm just going to be on a beach somewhere. All of my paycheck will go to me. I think I saw Malika that I need to go to.
No, I totally agree with what Tyler said. Growing up as a child, I wasn't spanked very often. I think I can remember like 3 times where I was spanked, and that because I was not listening. And so he who does not listen has to feel it, right? So at that time, it was what Tyler said was more, I'm spanking you, but I'm telling you why. Because you weren't listening to me when I was talking to you, so now I'm going to have to give you a reason for you to listen to me in a sense. But I think it's also when you spank, it has to come with an explanation. I'm doing this because you were going to do something that was going to hurt you. And usually the times I was spanked is because I was going to do something stupid, like put my hand on the stove or something. But that was because they were trying to protect me from myself, right? It was not because I want to hurt you, I want to cause you trauma, I want to cause you pain. I'm protecting you from yourself. And I think when you get to a certain age, it's like, okay, now I can have that conversation with you. When I was like 6, I wasn't really looking for a conversation. I was looking to just kind of do what I wanted to do. At 13, 14, when I was more able to have conversations with my parents, and they were able to say, here's my reasoning for it. I see it this way, and you're not kind of seeing it that way. You're growing, you think you know everything, you don't, but here's why I'm telling you what I'm telling you, right? And so it came with the punishment grounding, taking away the phone, things like that. But when you're that young and you're not fully able to comprehend what's going on, sometimes I feel like a spanking is appropriate.
Dr. Prid.
God never brings out judgment without a warning.
That's interesting. Did I hear you, Dr. Buckner?
Yes, but I could talk a whole lot about it, so I was like, I'm going to let everybody else talk because I can really get on a soapbox about this.
We got like 1 minute.
I'm going to pass it over in case anybody else wants to say, because I really could.
Dr. Foster, did I hear you saying? Mr. Foster?
Yeah, Brother Foster.
Sorry.
Yeah, I couldn't improve on what the young lady just said. If discipline is accompanied by a full explanation so that the child knows that what he is getting is actual justice, when he's assured that he's loved and accepted, but the discipline is administered with a full explanation where the child is in full agreement that what he did was wrong.
Yeah.
Then it's accepted. It's different. It's different. As long as it's not abusive, it's different. So I've seen children we've all seen children in grocery stores that were just completely out of control, throwing temper tantrums, going crazy. So I don't know what happened in that household, but I doubt that any corporal punishment was ever administered.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying.
Here's a question that I want to throw out, and I may only have time for one person to answer, but throw spanking out of your mind. This is a different conversation. I see many memes, I see many movies, I see many jokes on social media about the differences between what our parents of different communities maybe raise their kids or let their kids get away with in correlation to ours. In the sense that I'll watch movies with my friends, and then a character of a different skin complexion will talk back at their mother, or will go out at a certain time, or will rebel in a specific type of way. And the response I always hear is, man, that would never be a black parent. I hear that. I wanted someone to answer. Is that a true difference? Is that a true difference? Why is that?
I think it's because we just expect different things in certain communities. There's a certain level of respect that I give to my Caribbean household, right? When you're in a room of adults, you don't speak, right? And that's just a level of respect, right? So it's just certain things that are expected as different communities. You're able to do that because I feel like different communities allow their children to kind of do that because we're friends more than they are parents sometimes. But that's just my perception of different communities require different things.
It's interesting. That's an interesting question.
Thank you.
So let me go back to something that happened when my son spoke back to my wife.
Well,
And he did get disciplined for that. He got disciplined for that. Not because he spoke back to his mother, because he spoke back to my wife. And I said, we don't do that. He hasn't done that since.
I get it. No, respect. Go ahead.
Related to the question about the mass shootings and those who would take out their terror on other people, there's a continuum of warmth that's expected, and as it lessens, as there's less warmth, you're going to have more hostility. And then there's an expectation, a continuum of genuineness, firmness that also crosses that warmth. So as I am a warm parent, but I'm also firm in what I'm asking of you, there's more of a quality relationship. If I just have firmness with no warmth, then I just have the cold discipline. I just have what we could call a beating. If I have all warmth and no firmness, then I've got a pushover parent, right? So putting all that together, spanking may or may not come into that mix. But when I have spoken to you and we have a relationship and I've said that's not acceptable, because you have a relationship with me, then you're more likely to listen to me, right? The kids who have gone into schools and decided that they need to shoot up the classroom or the school, they are more likely to come from places where there was no warmth or there was very little firmness and no warmth. Like there was nobody that cared whether they got up, went to school, ate good food, whether they showed up at night and went to bed safely.
Apathy.
There was nobody there. Or there was a home that said, it's my way or the highway, and I'm here to just make sure you have food to eat, but I don't care about you. Your life has been a drain to me, and they hear that every day. So a spanking becomes less important when you think about what's needed in a child's life. They need the firmness, but they also need that warmth. So if I have spanking as one of my tools, I'm not going to use it if my goal is to show my child that I love her or him as they grow. I'm going to be a lot more patient with the things that I just simply call mistakes. And there will be times that I'm going to have to say, you know what, that looks like willful disobedience. We're going to have to address that at the level that will let you know I mean business.
Wow, I love it. I love it. I love it. Again, I really appreciate so many different temperatures and perspectives we're getting. I love this panel so much. We're going to take it to a commercial break. Don't change the temperature, because we'll be right back on Temperature Check.
What you do now and what you decide now at this age may well determine
bringing the gifts that my ancestors
which
gave.
way your life
I am the
shall
hope
go.
And the dream of the slave.
The only thing that separates women of color from anyone else,
but most importantly, this is for the men,
is opportunity.
That we know as the Exonerated Five.
We do not want our freedom gradually, but we want to be free now.
Your blackness is beautiful. Your compassion, your understanding, your fight for people who may be different from you is beautiful.
You can afford a quality faith-based education with Oakwood's Care Work Scholarship Program. As an eligible freshman, CARE can lower your educational debt about 66% and give you career-focused experience. In 4 years, you're going to graduate with marketable skills and then no more than $10,000 in loans, or about 1/3 the average students. Believe, belong, be here. Ask your OU enrollment specialist about the CARE program today.
What you do now and what you decide now at this age may well determine
Bringing the gifts that my ancestors
which
gave.
way your
I
life
am the
shall
hope
go.
and the dream of the slave.
The only thing that separates women of color from anyone else
But most importantly, this is for the men
is opportunity.
that we know as the exonerated five.
We do not want our freedom gradually, but we want to be free now.
Your blackness is beautiful. Your compassion, your understanding, your fight for people who may be different from you is beautiful.
Are you okay?
The stupid math class is kicking my butt, and I gotta pass this class.
Well, have you tried the tutoring program?
What tutoring program?
Well, the Max department offers online and in-person tutoring. They offer help with math, physics, and computer science. All you have to do is sign up.
How do I sign up?
I'll show you. So you just go into your courses in D2L. You hit need tutoring. And then a schedule of tutors and times will pop up, and you just sign up. Simple.
Wow.
And guess what?
What?
You get paid every time you complete a session.
Are you serious? That's so crazy.
I know, right?
Can I borrow your computer? I'd like to sign up.
Yeah.
Don't suffer in silence. Sign up for the Max Tutoring Program. Better grades and money in your pocket. That's a win-win. Certain restrictions apply.
Thank you for watching Temperature Check. We just came back from a commercial break. As our show comes to closer to an end, I want to do another segment of our live If Black People Were 100% Honest. So there's a prompt that we want to use for this segment, and our producers came up to it. I wanted to ask the question. Here's our quote. Do black people make racism more than it really is? Do we make it a bigger deal than it really is? Do we blow it out of proportion? Take your seconds to think it over. And then I want to get you guys' thoughts. Simple answers, initial questions, anything y'all got. Do black people ever make racism more than it is?
No.
Okay. Go ahead, Blake.
I don't think we make it a big enough deal. There are little things and microaggressions that we don't see every day, but we don't make it as big of a deal as it should be. So I think it's the complete opposite. I think we should make it a bigger deal.
I would take the stance of that we probably make it too much of a deal, depending on where we're at. Most places don't talk about racism, don't talk about what the struggle is or what we have to go through, but other places do, and I think we overly exert it, if that makes sense, or if you can catch my drift.
Here's a critique that I sense from other communities, and I want to get a response from you guys, right? I remember when I went to an academy that was predominantly white. And oftentimes, let's say if something happened, if a situation happened, oftentimes, we as black people would maybe go, okay, this was a racist situation, or this was a situation where someone was showing some prejudice. And oftentimes, I've heard this critique, honestly, on social media, from news people, in TV and movies, where white people sometimes feel like the word racist is too broad. You guys call everything racist. If I ask this person where they're from, assuming that they're not from America, it is the same level as me saying that they lynched me. I don't like, no, really, I mean, I have heard this critique where it's, I don't like that all things are considered racist. What do you have to that critique? Is the word racist or racism too broad when it comes to categories and situations?
I would just be tempted to be a little cynical and say,
Please.
well, it takes too long to say discriminatory.
Okay.
Because that's really what you're doing. But racism is just so into the system that we exist in that it is there. It is there. It is there economically. It is there interpersonally. And the people who receive it, live with microaggressions and sometimes macroaggressions on a daily basis from people who have the same skin tone as we do, and sometimes from people who have different skin tone as we do. It is there. It is a part of how we function in society. You don't go to certain places because of the treatment that you expect. You go to other places because of the acceptance that you'll get there.
Yeah.
That separation is because of a racist system that a lot of our interactions are founded on. So it's there. It's not to be escaped from. It's to be dealt with, in my opinion.
No, I agree. Go ahead, Tyler.
I agree with that point. Racism is definitely there. Racism is in the system. But it would also bring up a question in my mind. What, in today's society, what do we consider racism? Like, what is it? We have to really dissect that word nowadays because, in a sense, those comments were right. Everything is considered racist now. It's like, okay, we've I wouldn't say we've progressed, but it's like the word has definitely become too broad. We have to definitely figure out what can be deemed as racist or racism.
You could pose that question. I mean, just like, is it what Dr. Buckner said? It just takes too long to say the word discriminatory? I don't know. But
So when you ask that kind of a question, everything is racist. Can you also say everything is sexist? Everything is that-ist, whatever that ist may be. So I think it's very important that we have to understand what do we mean by the word racism, because there's so many different meanings for that. So for me, racism is a system that is used to manipulate those who should have and those who should not have. And there's a history with that. So racism isn't something that always existed. There is a beginning. Okay, there is a beginning. And that beginning happened to be also the foundation for what we call United States of America. So it's very much a part of what USA is. Because there were a lot of things that were coming up during the colonial period before the Republic that became the basis of the American Republic. So racism is a system. It's with us. And we need to make a big deal about it. Trying to hide it is not helping the situation. But now, does everybody act as a racist? No, sometimes it's just bad manners. Sometimes it's just being bigoted. And you don't have to be racist to be bad or to be bigoted. And some of the ones that you want to be careful about are those who are not bad.
Yeah.
Those are the ones you want to watch out for.
I like what you said there because I think it's This Is Us, which was one of my favorite shows because you can definitely tell they have writers of so many different communities. One thing that that show pointed out to me is that oftentimes black people will use racist as an adjective. That is a racist situation. That person was racist. They were doing something racist. But oftentimes people of other communities will go, or people of white communities will go, I'm a racist. It's a noun. I am a racist. They're a racist person. So it's not just I have racism in me. I am a racist. I just found that interesting. Was I skipping over someone? Go ahead.
I just don't want to be so sensitive to the feelings of racists. I mean, because racists are the ones who are offended when it's called out.
Wow.
You know, if you know a hit dog is the one that squeals.
Wow.
You know, and that's so I don't think it's used enough. But we can use synonyms like bigotry or prejudice.
Yeah.
You know, we can use those. Maybe we can intersperse those more often. But you know, that's what the whole pushback on critical race theory is about. They don't want to hear the truth. You know, so we shouldn't shy away from it. I mean, you know, that's what they want.
Yeah, you don't feel the need to change the semantics or whatnot.
No.
Call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Literally.
Gotcha. Yeah, was I skipping over somebody? No, we're good. I had a question which will probably be one of our last wrap-up questions that I just wanted to ask our panel. I remember in high school, some of my teachers, after activities, they would do a technique called glows and grows, right? Here are the areas that you're glowing. Here are the areas that we need to grow. forgive me if those semantics aren't perfect, but I want to ask you guys, when it comes to the black community, it could be your subjective idea of the temperature. When you guys think of the temperature, maybe based on some of these questions or topics that we didn't get the chance to talk about, what are some places that you may see glows, and what are some places that you wish maybe you could see grows? Go ahead, Doctor.
I think where we could grow is if we would be more like what I believe is the biblical Christ, which is not to be marginalizing anybody for their differences. We may not necessarily endorse or even embrace that which is different, but that doesn't mean we have to dehumanize. I'm really concerned with, again, the black community, and I'm going to be more specific, the black Christian community, in terms of how we deal with those who have different sexual orientations. That's a real problem. And to treat them the way that we have been treated as a black group, that seems kind of hypocritical. So I think we need to grow in terms of let's treat people as human beings, regardless of what they've chosen or what they are dealt with.
No, I totally agree. Go ahead, Tyler.
I would say another area that we would need to grow in is our unity stance. I think a lot of times in the black community, we're not unified as we really think we are. Just like Dr. Prig was saying, we demonize or marginalize people who have difference of opinions instead of, trying to get a different perspective, trying to learn or say, I have this stance on this point. What do you feel about it? Let's come together, let's reason, and let's see how far we can go. There's limited unity, and I feel like that's part of part of the reason as to why we feel as if we're just constantly stuck or we're just in the same place.
Where aren't we unified?
In a lot of places. I would say that we're not unified in, just the common goal of just thinking. Like Dr. Prick said, again, we can't have our own, or I'm going to reform it or frame it a different way. We can't have our own difference of opinions. Say if I was a Republican or, somebody was a Democrat here, not saying that we all are, we can't have a conversation without either it being a screaming match or it's just like, I'm right, I have this opinion, I know I'm right, you need to listen to what I say because I have more information than you. We need to start coming together and not just, taking the stance of I'm right. We need to come together again, like I said earlier, and just be like, okay, I have this opinion, I want to learn more, or I want to get a different point of view because my point of view might not be right. We need to be able to have, an all-around vision.
Got you. I want to hear another glow and grow.
I think we can grow in having more conversations like this. We learn better. I learn better with conversation, because it's a free space to be taught and a free space to also develop your opinion.
Okay.
So where it comes to the stance of unity, if our opinion is not fully delved out or planned out, we tend to not know what our plan is, right? So I think having more conversations like this so that we can kind of come together as a united body and say, okay, this is what we want, this is what we want to do, and this is how we want to do it.
I agree. Mr. Foster.
Boy, that's a good one. Because I struggle personally with tolerance for Uncle Tom's, and it's bad. It's something I need to pray about. So, my first comment had to do with the two cultures that I perceive, and I do perceive there to be a thug culture, in our community. And I'm not talking about styles. I'm talking about crime. There is a culture that often people is cool or something, and there's a gang thug culture in our community, and we need to deal with it. We need to talk about it. We need to deal with it. Black on black crime is real. It's a real thing. What goes on in the inner cities, in drug culture and in gang culture is real. that's the area of grow that I'd like to see us address forthrightly.
I hear you. I hear you, Dr. Butler.
I think I'm going to go with a glow.
Okay.
I think we have a strength of family. We may not, we can get loud. There's passionate people in every family and all that stuff. But it was the African American family that turned, or still does turn, what would be poverty-stricken, drug-filled life situations and produce young adults that say, I'm going to do better than this. It's a grandmother and a grandfather who says, I got another child to raise because my own child has chosen the wrong path. They are not leaving their family just to flounder. That family ideal in the African American community is a glow for me. We will create a family that lets you know you belong somewhere. If there is anything positive about what we call the thug culture, is that it created a place where some young men said, I got you. That is probably the positive, but it leads so much to other consequences that we lose that glow in the first place. But we are so community focused that we will create a community for ourselves so that we can feel like we have a nest somewhere. And I really think that's a strong strength of our African American community.
Wow.
Another glow that's very important. I'm glad you mentioned that. Your generation is a glow for two reasons.
Big time.
There's a difference between demonstrating and protesting. Demonstrating only reveals the problem. Protesting does something about the problem. And you can only do something about the problem if you're at the table. At the table of making decisions. And I see more of your generation getting there.
Wow.
That is something that we got to continue doing, to protest, to make changes in the system. The fact of your creativity. As long as the hunter tells the story, the lion's story will never be told. I believe the lions have now begun roaring even more in your generation.
Good. I totally agree, man. I'm so happy that we've been having these perspectives. I promise you, it was not planned for us to end on glows. That's just perfect. That's perfect. At the end of the day, I hope through this program, you've gained a new perspective on what the Black experience really looks like. And creating conversations like these, I'm not trying to start controversy for controversy's sake. We're trying to start it for rating's sake. I'm joking. But we genuinely wanted to get a grasp of our temperature so that I hope that we've stimulated some thoughts and questions in you from our talks today so that maybe you guys can take the current temperature, what we've talked about, and think about it and decide how you want to change it for the better. Thank you guys to our audience. Thank you so much to our panel. We can give you guys a hand. Have a great evening. This has been Temperature Check. Have a great night.